Ian from Easy Genie. Today I'm going to show you how to use our new genealogy PDF that takes cursive typing. If this video helps, please take a moment to like it and follow me, and let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a copy of the genealogy PDF, the 4-generation pedigree chart with cursive text. I'm going to enter some real genealogy information in it, and I'm also going to let you know about 9 or 10 things that you really need to understand about using these forms, because they truly are special forms. There's nothing else like it in the marketplace that I'm aware of. So let's get started. Now, after you purchase the genealogy PDF, you'll get an email to download it to your hard drive. We always recommend using a Mac or a Windows machine to download the PDF. And the reason is because it's much easier to work with genealogy PDFs that take pedigree typing than it is to use like a mobile phone or a tablet. So let's get started here with your downloads folder. Usually when you download a PDF or something else from the internet, it will go to the downloads folder, whether you're using a Mac or a Windows machine. Here is the PDF right here. It says Easy Genie 4-generation pedigree chart cursive PDF. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that you open it up in the correct program. We always recommend using Adobe Acrobat Reader. It's a free program to open and edit and save the PDFs. So if you see this in your downloads folder, make sure that you right-click on it and then open with Adobe Acrobat. Many times your computer will already be set up to use Adobe Acrobat, but in some cases you may not have that option because either you haven't downloaded it yet or because the operating system defaults to another software program. For instance, for Mac, it's Preview. For Windows machines, it's Microsoft Edge. And the problem is if you use Preview or Microsoft Edge or some other program that's not Adobe Acrobat Reader, it will mess up some of the text entry, and there may be other problems as well, such as the text not being aligned properly, some fields not working properly. So always use Adobe Acrobat Reader. So I'm going to open it up in Adobe Acrobat Reader, and here is the chart. Now, one thing you should always do is save a copy of the chart that you're going to be working on. Don't use the same chart that you downloaded, because basically if you want to use this chart again, you can. Just make as many copies as you need for personal use. Maybe, for instance, you're doing a slight variation of the chart for some reason because you're using a different child or some other piece of information, and that's perfectly fine. But make a copy so you'll be working with the correct copy and you can return to it later on. So it says save this PDF in a recent folder. I'm actually going to choose a different folder. And I'm going to go to, let's see here. Let's just save it in the images folder. Okay. And I give it a name too. Hiri. And then call it today's date, which is 11/02/22. So I know what it is. Easy Genie chart. Okay, so I'm going to save that. Now, when you come to the chart for the first time, let's make it a little bit bigger. It looks just like a blank chart, but you can actually type into the text fields just by clicking your mouse next to it. So compiled by, I'm going to type my name, Ian Lamont. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see it more clearly. One thing you should know also about this chart is that it uses 11-point Aramis or 12-point Aramis, which is a kind of like a Renaissance style cursive font. So click next to the field and start typing. You can also use the tab button to advance to the next field. So I'm going to click tab, and you can see it just went to the date field. So for date, you can put in today's date, but what I often do is I give it a little code. So I'm going to call it Hiri, that's the name of the family line, and then I'm going to call it November 2022. And I can use that as a reference later on. I'm going to tap tab again, and then for the father field, I'm going to type John Hiri. Now, you may know what the information is, or you may be looking at a birth certificate that you've printed out, or you may be looking at your online tree from Ancestry or Family Search. Any of that's fine. I'm just going to be using another piece of paper that I have all this information on. So he was born in 2 October 1867. Tab again, born where? Lockport, New York. And you can see that that font looks really fine. I'm actually really happy with the font that we found. It looks great. So died when? He died in 17 October 1935, and died where? He also died in Lockport, New York. All right. Now, maybe you don't have the married information. You can just skip that. Ancestors of. So John Heary was the father of my great aunt, Catherine Frances Heary. And she was born on 2 May 1907. All right. So I'm just going through, tabbing through the information. Lockport, New York. She died in 2004. I don't know the exact date. So what I might actually do later on is when I research that information, I can just copy it. I can just copy it into there and start typing again. And then I know she died in Mesa, Arizona. Okay. She was married several times, and I don't know the exact date of the marriage, but I'm going to put down her first husband, whose name was Charles Axtell. And actually, this is a reason why you might create several different variations of the same chart. So after I finish filling out this whole chart, I might come back, create a new copy of the chart, and then erase Charles's name and then type in the other name. But for now, let's just keep it Charles Axtell. And then her mother's name was Mary Jeanette Wallace. And she was born on 19 December 1870 in Lundy's Lane, Ontario, Canada. Died when? 7 July 1930. And she died in Lockport, New York. So you can see I'm going through all the fields. I just tabbed it. Now, we've created a special field right below the mother, number 3, and to the right of our logo. And this is where you can, it's like a notes field, and you can put in some information that explain something about the research. So this information was compiled from family interviews and records between 2002 and 2022 by Ian Lamont. Okay, there's a couple lines of text you can put in there. One thing you should know is that if there's, you can't like write a book and just type it all in there. There's a limited amount of space for all of the fields on this particular chart. In this case, for instance, Mary Jeanette Wallace, you can see her name is longer. This one, Lundy's Lane, Ontario, Canada. So if I kept on typing, like let's put down a note. Not sure of, so I've basically just hit the limit of the amount of space that I can put in there. So if you find that you're running out of space in a certain field, you may have to do some abbreviations to make more room. For instance, I might just do Lundy's Lane, Ontario, or I could even do Lundy's Lane, Ont, because I've seen that as a abbreviation, or ON, which is the postal code, but I don't think that looks as nice. So let's just do Lundy's Lane, Ontario, Canada. So I've started to enter the text, and you can see basically how this is working. Once I'm done entering all the fields that I know, I can just save it, and I can put it away for as long as I need it to be put away. For instance, sometimes I might, I know John Heary's father's name, which will be in this field. His name is Matthew Heary. But I don't yet know Matthew Heary's father's name. So I might have to come back later on when I know that research. The other thing that I may want to do is print out a copy of this. So what I recommend doing is using high quality paper, especially if you're going to be framing it or maybe giving it to another relative. Just print it out on good paper that will last a long time, because the idea is you want this information that you've researched to be able to last for as long as possible. And I'm not really confident that saving it on either your hard drive or some sort of cloud service provider, it's going to be available in 50 years time. But paper, good quality paper, will last a long time. And I always recommend having a printout of the most recent or the most accurate version of these particular charts. Now, another thing that you should know about this is that this information, it's not shared with anybody. As long as you want to keep it to yourself, it can stay with you, either printed out or on your own hard drive. But if you decide later on you want to share it with a relative, yes, you can do that. You can share these charts for personal use All I ask is please do not post these blank charts online in a public place where somebody else could grab it and then start either using it or maybe get access to the data, and it's data that you do not want to share. So just be aware of that. The other thing is when you're saving these charts, so in order to save, you can either do, if you're using a Windows machine, you can do Control S, or a Mac, you do Command S, or just go to File and then Save. So I've just updated that. And then sometimes if you try to save a new file, Adobe may prompt you to use Adobe Cloud. I do not recommend using Adobe Cloud because sometimes users have reported problems trying to access the file later on. And also, I'm not really confident that Adobe won't start charging money for Adobe Cloud services in the future. And it would be a shame to have this information locked up by some for-profit company that doesn't care about your genealogy just because they want to make money. And for some reason you're not able to, or you don't want to pay for that access. So I always recommend saving a copy to your own hard drive where you have control over that particular data. One last thing to share about these charts is I do recommend, let's reduce the size here so we can see the whole thing. I do recommend considering using a professional printer if you want to have the best quality paper, or you want to get it framed or something like that. A good framing shop will be able to print this on great quality paper. You have to give them a copy of the PDF and also frame it so it looks really, really nice. It is suitable for making a gift or something like that, or sharing it with a relative as a gift. So this is an option that you have for our new 4-generation pedigree chart that uses cursive. And if you want to purchase the chart for yourself or tell somebody else about it, go to easygenie.org and then click on PDF downloads, and you'll be able to find this particular chart. And this is the 4-generation pedigree chart with cursive text entry. My name is Ian Lamont. I'm the founder of Easy Genie. Thank you so much for watching.